a little. Oh, there's our recording. Awesome. Thank you, Maggie. Can you give us a recap on the survey?
Sure. So we kicked off the our annual NetBox user community survey at the beginning of May, late April, maybe. We ran that for about a month and collected 487 responses, which coincidentally was the same number of responses as last year. The community definitely keeps growing, but one of the things we struggle with is just getting that survey and other communications in front of end users, because as you might imagine, if people are just out there happily using NetBox, they might not be really tuned into what's going on in the community. So that's a kind of an ongoing challenge for us. But the survey concluded at the end of May, and finally put together all of the data that we got back, and it's been published on GitHub. So if you want to go check that out, it's a discussion under the NetBox repo. It's number 12876. A lot of stuff is very similar to last year, but some changes as well. We changed up the questions a bit. This year, we asked more about the number of objects people have in NetBox, specifically devices and prefixes, to kind of get a sense for kind of where that is. On average, people have around 2,800 devices and 2,600 prefixes, somewhere around there. And we asked some questions about we asked people to self-identify kind of their degree of like network automation that they use, and some other interesting questions. So I won't spend any more time on it here on the call, but if you're interested, definitely go check that out.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeremy. I'm always impressed to see the ISP and the telecom representation when you draw it out. Like that's the slice of pie I would like for dessert, because they're a large group out there. That's really good to see.
It was about 29% this year.
Yeah, I'll take 29% of a pie. Next, I'm going to jump into the plugin idea board, which I don't remember if we talked about this last month, but I definitely recall it going out on at least Twitter and in the Slack at least. So anyone who hasn't seen that, maybe I should bring that up. It's a place where we can start voting on what plugins the community would like to see, what ideas, what features that might fall into some of those. Jeremy, can you give me just a little more flavor around that while I kind of
Yeah,
just bring the
I
page
think
up?
we brought it up last time as well. This is I added it to the agenda for this call just as a quick reminder that we've got it launched, and really it's an answer for anyone who has had an idea for a plugin. We haven't had a great solution for where people can post and discuss those until now. So this was set up just recently, about a month ago. It is at plugin-ideas.netbox.dev. So you can head over there. There's a very lightweight registration process, and you can submit your idea, you can comment and vote on others. You can see there's a number of plugin ideas that are there now. And it's really interesting to see, as new ideas rise to the top and there's more engaged discussion around them. And it helps, I think, focus discussion around common themes so that people aren't all trying to build, 7 different plugins that do the same thing. It's kind of a meeting place for people to discuss and hopefully head in the same direction.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love the voting idea. I mean, it works everywhere else. Let's see here. We've got Net DevOps days coming up. So for those of you who haven't seen, we are hosting a network automation forward mini conference, single day conference, meetup in London. It's near the end of June. I believe it's the 26th. So we can put a link out there for that. We do still have tickets available. And actually, Maggie, would you be able to drop a link into chat for us? Thank you very much. So if you are local to London, or you can easily get to London, or maybe oh, it's June 30th. Okay, sorry, I must have been looking at an old article there. If you can get there easily, or maybe not so easily, but you can convince the company to bring you there, it's looking like will be a pretty good event for network automation. We're going to have, I believe we have 6 speakers lined up right now from various different organizations. This isn't going to be a sales pitch type event. These are very much community driven. Here's what people have done with automation. So it should be very applicable to anyone who's getting deeper into automation, just learning, or you're kind of just looking to hang out with the general networking crew. Let's see here. We were at Cisco Live last week. And just give a quick recap on what we saw at Cisco Live from like a NetBox standpoint. Something that continues to amaze me is that if you ever go to Cisco Live, they have this area they call the DevNet area, and it's where they show off all of the programming elements, the automation elements, interacting with your network through APIs. And something that we saw last year and have continued to see this year is that NetBox shows up in a lot of those automation presentations without us. We don't go out and say, hey, could you use NetBox for something? There's a lot of just natural usage out there. And I remember last year standing in the area and kind of looking over Jeremy's shoulder and seeing NetBox on another display, and then NetBox on another display, and it shows up all over the place. So that's one thing that I saw at Cisco Live, and I guess that's kind of stealing a little bit because that's a pretty obvious one, or that's a big one. Jeremy, did you see anything at Live that you'd like to mention?
Yeah, I sat in on a couple of talks, and I think my favorite was probably by Jason King and Stephen Carter. It was on based on their book, which is called Model Driven DevOps, which is a really, really interesting kind of introduction to applying, I guess, the DevOps philosophy to network automation in general. And I like it because every chapter is kind of prefaced by this story, this narrative of Bob, the network engineer, who goes through, I think, what many of us in the field encounter. And it's a kind of a really, this is more the book than the presentation, but the presentation is kind of a summary of the book, if you will. It goes through the challenges of not having automation, and then getting automation, and then automating the wrong things with it, and having to step back and it goes through much of the same trials and tribulations that we all do. And it really works through different tools, applying, actually labbing out, virtualizing networks so that you can apply continuous integration, continuous deployment methodologies to networking, which is I think an area that a lot of people struggle with because in traditional CI/CD pipelines, it doesn't really map directly to networking, so we kind of have to figure out how to do things on our own. NetBox is in there as well, which is great, and it goes through and it really talks about Yang and OpenConfig and all these other tools and I think they do a great job of kind of piecing together how to build an automation strategy from tools you likely have already encountered.
Yeah, I set that session as well. It was interesting to see, because I think they brought up NSO in that Cisco NSO as part of that presentation, and you don't see that out in the wild all that much, or like you don't see it in blogs and articles and things like that. So it was really interesting to see NSO come up and be part of that presentation as well. Yeah, I personally really enjoyed just all of the engagement that we got, like people just coming up wanting to shake hands and talk about NetBox for a couple minutes. At each of these conferences, we'll put a link out there, like a calendar link where you can book some time, and we had some people do that, coming up just to say hi, talk shop a bit, talk about how do I do this or how do I do that. That was a lot of fun as well. I really enjoyed that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So last in community news here, so we NetBox Labs recently announced a $100,000 resource that's going to be put out there for plugin development. I don't know that we have a ton that we're going to talk about today in regards to that. Chris, I know you're on. I don't know if you might want to say something briefly about that, but if not, that's something that you'll see more messaging around on our social channels talking about that, how that's going to actually function for the community.
Yeah, I'll just chime in really quick. I think, an announcement that we made last week. We're super excited about committing 100K to invest directly in the community, but you're going to see more specific announcements from us, I think next week, with some of the first programs that we're going to launch, out of the community fund. And I think we're going to see how that goes, learn from it, and then continue to invest and look for everybody's feedback to that end too. So thanks, Jordan.
Awesome, absolutely. Thanks, Chris. So yeah, look forward to hearing more and talking more about that. So that pretty much wraps up the news portion. We're going to go ahead and jump into our presentations now. So first we have Anton Miasnikov, then we're going to have Jonathan Senecal, and then we'll wrap up with Alex Bortok. So Anton, if you are ready, go ahead and start sharing.
Yeah, I'm ready. Thank you, Jordan. And let me open my presentation. Yeah, I hope you see my screen.
Yes, we do.
Okay. So in this presentation, I'm going to tell you about NetBox plugin I've been developing. Its name is Validity. When you have a large network with thousands of devices and dozens of engineers who make configuration changes, the chance of making a mistake increases dramatically, and it becomes really difficult to keep your configurations error-free. So Validity is a plugin that helps you to ensure your devices are provisioned in a proper way. You define compliance tests as Python expressions. Validity executes these tests and finally tells you which of your devices are provisioned properly and which are not. It's like the auto test from the software development world. First of all, to use Validity, you have to store your device configurations in a Git repository. Then you need to define a config serializer to translate your configuration from plain text into JSON. Then you create a device selector to define a subset of devices which will be a subject for the tests. Then you create one or more compliance tests as Python expressions with possibly some JQ expressions. If you're not aware of JQ, it stands for JSON query, and it's a tool to effectively extract information from complex JSON structures. I'll show you an example later. And the final step is to execute the tests against the devices and pick up the results. A couple more details about config serialization. Validity uses TTP, which stands for Template Text Parser. TTP allows you to define simple and readable templates to translate your configuration into JSON. Here you can see the example. We have this initial data, then we apply this template, and this JSON will be the result. I think very simple, very readable. Here you can see some of the test examples. The first one checks that the device hostname is in your config matches the following naming convention: device name from NetBox, a dot, and device site short name. It's also mentioned as a site slug. The second test checks that the device has two NTP servers provisioned equal to 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's go next and check out the more complex example. This example intends that our devices are broken up into pairs. Inside Validity, I call this approach dynamic pairs. You may leverage this pattern when you want to compare two devices between each other. In this example, we are going to compare the configuration of all port channel interfaces between a device and its dynamic pair. To do this, we use this JQ expression, this one. The expression tells us to get the interface's top-level key, then we select only the items whose name starts with port channel. And finally, we make a dictionary where the key is the interface name and the value is the interface config. Finally, we just compiled this new dictionaries for a device and for its dynamic pair. And we went to a live demo. Here is my local NetBox. We don't have much time, and I've already pre-provisioned all the necessary entities. Now I go to devices. Here we have 4 devices created. Let it be device 11 and serialized config. Here you can see the serialized configuration for this device. And here is the original config on the GitHub. So just a plain text of configuration. As you may see, it's only a part of an original config, only the part that is required for our tests. Now I go to tests, validity tests, and here you can see our 3 tests that I've mentioned before. Hostname test, here it is, then NTP test, and the last one, our port channel test. So now let's execute these tests. I go to customization scripts, then run compliance tests, and run script. So it takes a bit of time to finish. And now it's finished. Let's go to compliance report. Here is the overall statistics, and here is the statistics for per device. As you can see, device 11 has compliance passed, and all the other devices have compliance failed. Let's review the errors. First one, hostname test. As you can see, our hostname from the configuration is device 12, according to our step-by-step evaluation. So our hostname in the config is device 12, but by our naming convention, it has to be device 12.site1, and they are not equal, and the test is failed. Let's go next. NTP test for the same device. The same here. NTP servers from the config are 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6, 7, 7, and they have to be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6, 7, 8. Here you can see the difference. It's deep diff. Let's go next. And the most complex test here, it's our port channel test. As you may remember, we are comparing the all port channel configuration from device configuration and from device dynamic pair configuration. We can scroll down and see that port channel 111 in our dynamic pair has no VLAN 300. And here is the configuration of VLANs for dynamic pair. And here is this configuration for our device. And they are not equal, so the test is failed. So that was basically all that I was going to show you. For further reading, please visit Validity GitHub page. Here you can find more information about how to install and use the plugin. And let me open the final slide. Yes, here it is. Here is my contact information. Feel free to message me if you have any questions. And finally, I want to say that I'm open to work now. So in case of any open positions related to Python backend or infrastructure automation, feel free to reach me out. That's all.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anton. That was a pretty impressive way of running checks like that. I've seen some other implementations out there that feel pretty heavy, but this didn't feel all that heavy. How long did it take you to develop this?
Yes, it was one of the main goals.
Okay. We do have maybe time for a quick question if anyone wants to toss something in chat or speak up.
I have a question actually, Anton. Have you considered using Yang models to get the configuration straight from the devices and translate those to JSON and stuff like that?
So actually, no, I haven't. I think pulling the configuration directly from devices, it's a kind of a task that is already resolved by many of the ways, and maybe it's just too complex for this plugin, I think.
No, it was
think
it was more into like parsing and configuration against the Yang model. So basically, the Yang model, instead of using TPP, would tell you which fields are what and so on and so forth.
So actually, I haven't thought about it before, but I think it's a good idea.
Great. Anyways, thanks for answering.
Cool. Yeah, if anybody has any other questions for Anton, we'll go ahead and hold on to those until the end. But Jonathan, since you were just on the mic, why don't you go ahead and jump into your presentation?
Sure thing. You see my screen?
Coming through.
All right. So I'm Jonathan Senecal. I've worked in the past for many NSPs, the network service providers. I currently work for one NSP in particular, which is named MetroOptic. We build networks across Canada, and our most dense networks are around the Montreal Island in Quebec, the province of Quebec in Canada. One of our challenges is really dealing with like the plethora of information that we need to push to third parties, such as ARIN. I don't know about your background, everybody, but ARIN is basically the authority that manages the IP space for anything that's public on the internet for Americas, so Canada, United States, and so on. And one thing that they require is to tell them about your usage of the IP space that you own. So you basically need to tell them using SWIP, what exactly is your footprint and how many prefixes you have assigned to third parties and what's their usage of it and so on and so forth. And if you don't do that, you basically are denied from adding IP space to your AS number, for instance. So this information is also used by third parties, such as when you go like google.com, it knows you're basically from Italy, so it redirects you to google.it, for instance. That basically is from a database. In that case, it would be right for Italy, but the address is coming from this database. The old way to update this information was through emails. Yes, emails. So you had to send a specific format by email to ARIN per prefix. So let's say you have thousands of prefixes, that would be 1,000 of emails, individual emails, crafted by hand most of the time, or through any sort of text automation that you have, and send it over and hope for the best. Obviously, this is super tedious and, it leads to problems and stuff like that. There has to be a better way, right? So, like I said, most service providers have multiple hundreds of prefixes to report to ARIN, some even thousands. And those prefixes are could be all the way small to /29s or bigger subnets like /24s. So the solution was to automate the record management with Reg RWS, which is a REST API that ARIN's just released recently. And instead of using SWIFT through emails, you use their REST API to push the data over there. Where NetBox comes in is NetBox as a source of truth is basically the best way to reference this data to send it to ARIN, because you don't really care what's at ARIN's if your source of truth is NetBox, right? So you can overwrite whatever is there if it makes sense for you. So I built that that functionality, the integration through custom scripts inside of NetBox. Obviously, NetBox doesn't know how to speak ARIN REST, so I built a Python library, which is PRegRWS, which is on GitHub and PyPy to help with this. So enough slides. Let's go with the presentation. Like I was discussing, so this is ARIN Reg RWS multiple, sorry. And it's basically intended to update this information. For those that don't know about ARIN, their documentation is very good. You can read about them. You may not use them at all because you don't have this need, but I invite you to go read through this. It's very, very interesting. So anyways, so as you may know, an ISP has many customers, and some of those have prefixes. And for instance, this is a /31 assigned to a specific customer, which is blurred right now. But you see it's named right there. So anyways, it's not private information, but basically what this allows is to know, like, for all the prefixes that we have, for instance, in /20, sorry, I need my VPN connected. That was bad timing. Sorry for that.
That's how you know when it's a real demo.
Yeah, I know, right? That's bad. So sorry for that.
Oh, you're fine. That's what Jeremy told me when I had a demo fail in real time. That's how you know it's real.
Okay, give me a second. I need to turn off another VPN, but I can't share the VPN name, so give me a sec. I'll stop sharing for now.
Sure. So while you're getting that set up, just like a general question, you mentioned ARIN in here. Is that the only registrar that's that your org works with?
Yes, currently this is the only registrar we work with, but they have all the other registries have similar systems. It's not like the same. So you basically open their REST API and do what you need. So let me see if it works now. Yeah, it works. Okay, sorry, I can share now. Sorry about that. Okay, so I was saying, so we have like this /20, which is an aggregate that we get from ARIN, and it has many prefixes, as you can see, 274 there, and those 274s are either per region, like split into regions, or per basically customers. You have some descriptions there, but that's basically what it is. And once this customer is changed, or we sell this information, this IP block to somebody else, we need to update ARIN. And every time we do that, we basically either needed to send an email to that, and most of the time we just get very, very outdated, very, very, very quickly, until the customer, which was based in Montreal, would be like the prefix, would be assigned to a Toronto customer. And then this customer would complain that all his results are based in Montreal for some reason. So now you have to do the SWIFT thing and send the information to ARIN, so everybody's database is updated with GeoIP location stuff. What we basically used is the customer location or site to document the address, but this was not specific enough for ARIN, because ARIN wants very more detailed information about the physical address. So I used Google Maps Place ID for this. So what I built is a small custom script that, well, Python script really, that both updates sites based on addresses or the information that's from NetBox. This is not open source, but it basically does that. So pulls up the site from NetBox and asks you about it. You want to change something about that. There's no tenant, whatever. And if you would like to change the physical address, it would actually search Google Map with this address and find it in Google. And then if you're good with that, you continue. What it did there, it basically updated the place ID there. It's a custom field. So this information contains a lot of information because in Google, you have all the different address components. So you can query them later on. And I'm going there very soon. So once this information is available, you can do a bulk update. So this is the script in question. These are all our prefixes. So anyways, so that would be my script. It's called reassign simple in that case, because we do most of our reassignments as simple reallocations. There's more to it, but I won't go into further details. And once it runs, it basically spews out a bunch of information like that. So I'll let it run for a while. It's going to take a few seconds. So during this time, I'll basically just show you an example of output there. So basically, it's going to process the aggregate, which is the /20 I documented, and it's going to push check every prefix one by one, and it's going to find this guy. This discovers that ARIN has different objects assigned to it, so it's trying to remove the ARIN reassignment. But this specific prefix has a quirk to it, so it basically fails. But I know about it, so it's a known failure. But most of those objects would eventually succeed. So it's basically processing the prefixes, going to check for the existing net that is being documented inside of ARIN, and make sure it conforms to what's in NetBox, and then decide it's up to date. So if it doesn't have to do anything else, it just stops there. And sometimes it would try to update them, and those are the warnings there. So it automates all this process for the 274 subnets that I spoke about. And if it's missing a tenant, it's not going to do anything because it can't find the addresses. But that's basically it. That's the script. It does this very quickly. Actually, this guy is done. So it went through the full aggregate and documented all of those prefixes. And one example of those would be, let's say, this guy. Okay, so if you go into this one has no site. Need to find one that has a site. This guy. Okay, so if I were to go to ARIN, okay, I need to get rid of that box. Sorry, the Zoom meeting was in the way. So if I were to go into ARIN and do this, and it tells you this is the object I created, which is FlexCom. If I actually go back there, FlexCom, you see it, so it's right there. And so it basically tells you that it was updated today.
Nice.
And it basically builds the handle, which is the customer name. So it's FlexCom, the address of this customer and everything, puts all the information for you. And all this information obviously is based from the address that was first parsed through Google Maps API, and then after the script transit. The script is right there. It's somewhat long. Let me get rid of this guy. Yes. So has a few hundred lines there, but it's
We still see the ARIN screen.
Oh, you do? Sorry about that. I'm not sharing the right thing. My bad.
Soon we'll do that. But you're just about up. So yeah.
Yeah, so that's the trick. So obviously about the script is not open source, but I can open source it to anybody who wants to adapt it to their needs. And the library is open source and is available on GitHub, which is this tab. I have it open. I've read that. So this library basically just handles, it's like an object mapper for the REST API and uses Pydantic models for that.
Very cool.
So, yeah,
Awesome.
if you have any questions, I'm available after, because apparently I'm running out of time.
Yeah, you're good. I just making sure we didn't that you weren't going to go too deep in the script, but I do appreciate you bringing it up.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, it really saved a lot of time. I mean, doing this tedious work, we used to take many hours for like this desk jockey. Now it's just done manual, like through a click of a button, really.
That's not, I mean, it's been quite some time since I've had to deal with ARIN personally, but it always seemed like it was hours just dealing with a single instance or a single entry. So I can appreciate how that would help you guys transact a lot more rapidly.
All right.
Awesome. So last up, Alex Bortok, thanks for coming back. Let's see what you've got going on with Nereplica.
Sounds good. Hello, everyone. So what I'm gonna show today is how to visualize NetBox network topologies without installing any plugins. All right, let me share my screen for that. Give me a second. Share the whole desktop. All right, and let me present this like this. Is it coming through all right?
Yep, seeing it.
So how did I get here? Couple of months ago, I had a demo for you guys of a tool that can extract network topology from NetBox so that you can bring up a lab environment using either container lab or Cisco modeling labs. Now, when I was developing this, quite often I would see, well, did I export what I was intended to do, and all those sorts of questions. And this is the moment where being able to see what is exported really helps, right? But I would need to launch it in the container lab to see if it's correct, or I would need to have a Cisco modeling lab's VM running so I can import it there and see. So that wasn't really convenient. So what I was thinking, well, I have a special visualizer I built some time ago for Container Lab. And I decided, what if I can export data from NetBox directly into the format that this visualizer called Graphite can, understands. So I can skip all this Container Lab or CML steps in order to see what was exported. All right, so literally what it is, it's I call it client-side visualization, because you are like on the client side of NetBox. You don't actually add anything to the NetBox. You can work with any NetBox server, like vanilla installation or customized in any way. It can have its own visualization plugins, doesn't matter. You can just pull the topology data from it. You don't need any admin rights, right? To actually be able to visualize something. You just need a read, like you can have a read-only user access, and you can have some, I hope at a certain point, quite advanced custom filters. I already have ability to filter by site, by device roles, by device tags when you extract data. So literally, I'm not dependent on how you can see those things in NetBox. You can just create a custom query, export data, and see how it looks like. All right. So for the demo and to develop this visualization, I work with a partner. It's a giant global P4 lab network. It's a network between a bunch of universities in Europe, United States, and South America, and so forth. So they gave me access to their NetBox system, which was very nice of them. And I'm going to be using their system today to demonstrate. To run the demo, essentially, there is one command that you run to extract data, which is NRX Python script, and you give it a configuration file, which basically tells where NetBox is and what the API key is. And then in this case, I'm going to be using a tag to filter devices with the tag GP4L. And I tell it that I want to see the output as a graphite. And then there is a way to start graphite visualizer as a Docker container. And then it has a web interface, and you will see the topology. All right. So let me do that. So let's see if it's gonna be okay. So I'm gonna do it like this. So here is the NetBox list of devices for Giant. And you can see there are some of them that are tagged with GP4L tag, not all of them, right? And so I'm going to just export only those, and they're between multiple sites. So I'm going to be exporting only those that have this tag. All right, and to do that, and x.py configuration, and then means tag GP4L, and the output should be graphite. Now, Giant's NetBox server is somewhere in France. I'm in Seattle right now. And the drawback of this implementation is that the NRX tool has to query a remote server, right? And sometimes if you have latency and a lot of devices and all that, this is a little bit less, not as fast if you would have a plugin on the NetBox server, right? So there are benefits and drawbacks in this method, definitely. So it will take probably another 10 seconds to export all the devices. And it actually depends greatly if you're using a tag or if you're using a site. For site, it's a little bit faster. Yeah, so we have this JSON file now that has a description of the topology that Graphite can visualize. So to run it, essentially, that would be the Docker command you need to run. I'm not gonna, it's already started. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna open up this URL. So now this is the web page. And what you do, you select the file you wanna see, open it up and submit. Here we go, we have a visualization. There are two rings here. The one that goes in North-South America, and then there is another in Europe, and then this one goes to, I believe, Tokyo, right? So one of the things that I'm considering to add to this is to be able to see that on the map with geographical data, GPS points, and so forth. So it would actually be laid out on the map. Right now, I don't have that, which is, of course, works fine if you just want to visualize topology inside the data center or a site like that. But for wide area networks, that would be really nice. Okay, let's see. What do I have here as the next slide? Yeah, so we went through demo. But then I thought there is some more stuff that we just recently came up with, and I wanted to share with you that as well. In this week, we have Nanog 88 in Seattle, and on Sunday, we had a hackathon. And as part of the hackathon, we had an idea to leverage newly added device configuration template rendering, device configuration rendering capabilities that NetBox 3.5 has. So that when I export a topology for container lab, not only that topology describes how devices are interconnected, but it also would export startup configurations for every device that has it. So when you bring the topology up, the devices are pre-configured. All right. So that was the idea of the hackathon, and let me just jump to the demo back. So what I have here is next page over here. I have 3 devices. One of them, Nokia Arduino box, has a device configuration rendering configured. So I've opened it up here. You can see it renders a configuration for the device. And for example, in the interfaces, I do have information about which VLANs should be used on different ports. And in the configuration, I'm getting those interfaces configured properly with those VLAN tags. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use NRX in a different fashion. I'm just going to supply the this configuration, and I'm going to use tag H88 for the hackathon 88, and the output would be container lab. And so if I do so, it checks if every device in topology has a configuration, and that can be rendered through NetBox. So this one does. If I look into it, you see we've got this configuration saved in the file. And in the container lab topology, what happens is this device over here has a startup configuration specified as this file. Right? So I can literally start container lab topology now, and the device would come up with pre-configured. Right? So I can do that in the background, but meanwhile, if you guys have questions, please ask.
We're getting close up to time. I don't have any immediate questions for you though. If anybody else does while you're running this, please feel free.
What happened here? Because that's a different file. Let me see which file it exported. Okay, this is the file.
So while you're going through this, Maggie, if you have a quick moment, so everyone, we'd like to have, we throw a quick survey out there just to get your feedback on how the presentations have gone. It take you just a quick minute or two to fill out. We definitely would appreciate everyone filling it out for us.
All right. Anyway, I'll stop here. I'm not going to bring the container lab topology, but yeah, as you can see, when it would come up, it would have the device configuration. Device will be pre-configured with the stuff that we rendered. And just a final slide, just to finish and let people know where to find everything. Essentially, if you head up to netreplica.com, you will find the links to the NRX utility, to the templates I'm using to render the visualization. By the way, one of the things that you can do is you can change the way the visualization format is, and instead of graphite, you can use something else. It's totally fine. It's just a different set of Jinja 2 templates that you need to supply. Right, and then the graphite itself is also there. Yeah, thank you very much.
Awesome, thank you, Alex, for showing, and thank you for participating in the hackathon. Really appreciates. Were you there for that, or were you remote for that?
Yeah, local.
You were local for that?
Local, but I came, yes, on site.
Awesome, very cool. So thank you so much, Alex and Jonathan and Anton for presenting. If anyone out there would like an opportunity to present, I know we saw 3 really impressive demos here, but if you have something out there that you'd like to show, just how you organize a NetBox, or you want to brag about something that you put together, we're always looking for people to come on and have a conversation. Show us what they're working on or what they've done. It doesn't need to be, a plugin or a script or anything at that level. So if you would like an opportunity, or you'd like to come on with us, we can share a link, fill out the form, and we'll reach out and get you booked to come on. And yes, we'll share the videos, we'll share the entire event, and then each of the 3 demos, we'll share those individually out there. So that concludes all the presentations and everything. So thank you for our presenters. We'd also like to thank coming out of Cisco Live, Palmer Sample, Jason King, and Stephen Carter. Those were the three people that had reached out to us and let us know that NetBox presentations were going to be there, or presentations featuring NetBox. And anyone who came out to say hi, shake a hand at Cisco Live, thank you for doing so. It's great to put names to faces and Twitter handles and Discord IDs. So thank you everyone for doing that.
Yeah, it was really great to see everyone to stop and say hi. It did make getting to lunch take a lot longer than expected, but it's still nice to talk to everyone.
Next year, we're just going to have to stake out a table and get a giant NetBox flag and say, here we are.
I like that idea.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll go over well. And we want to thank the hackathon teams that were participating at Nanog 88. We had some of that at 87 as well. It's great to see those events to where it's fun to see what people come up with out of. So there was that one, and then there was basically what Alex had just presented. Then there was another group that presented like a top-down data center floor diagramming thing. I didn't see the replay on it, but just the verbal feedback I got on it was pretty cool. So that sounds like a fun plugin.
I know Nanog is still happening as we speak. They typically have the video content up. They did really well last with the last conference. I think they had it up like the following week. So keep an eye out for that.
Yep. And that concludes the formal agenda for today. So if we do have any other questions for the presenters, any other just general conversation, this would be a great time for that. And then once we hit that point, we'll go ahead and close the recording down, and anyone who wants to hang out and chat would be more than welcome to do so. So questions for anyone? Other than Jonathan already answering how you were blurring that column out. That was pretty slick.
Yeah, it's a tool I keep in my back pocket. It's always useful every now and then. You never know why. Sometimes I actually put a small advert in a GitHub issue when someone wants to fix a cosmetic issue that just is for them. It's like,
sure,
use Temper Monkey. It's gonna fix it for you.
Yeah, that's I'm gonna have to play with it a little more. The way that you've matched on there with anything that's coming out of tenants or tenancy is really cool.
Yeah. So no, it's pretty neat for that. It does like many other things. If you look at there's a repo, like there's like a GitHub for user strips as well. So you can look it up. At some point, some guy made, I know it's a bit off topic, but at some point a guy made a user strip to unblur Tinder profiles. Like your likes that you don't know, they basically would unblur. So you know the people and stuff like that. So yeah, it's pretty powerful. Yeah.
Does anyone have any other questions for the presenters, or just general NetBox or networking topics in general? Going once, going twice.
Also, I'm interested to eager to play around with NRX because I'm rebuilding my workstation now. I'm going to repurpose my old workstation as a lab box, either container lab and or Cisco modeling labs, and play around some more with both of them. So it's really interesting to see how that was built out, and we get more involved with that project.
Yeah, actually, I met with one of the guys that work at NetBox Labs at the hackathon. He works on the API libraries.
Yeah, it was Arthur, right? Arthur Hansen.
Yes, yes. Thank you for helping me with the name. Yeah, and it seems like it should be quite straightforward to move from the old the library to the new one, because when I use the old library, it's kind of strange. I'm not always sure when there are additional API requests going on in the background, and that complicates understanding where performance problems are.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, looks like I'm gonna get some help from him, which is very nice.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's good to hear. Yeah, hey Arthur, I saw you turn your camera on. So if there's nothing else, we'll put it up one more time, going once, going twice. Thank you everyone for joining us. Like I said, we'll close the recording down. We'll do another meeting next month. We'll have 3 new presenters on. I think we're working on booking those out now. If you can, fill out the survey, please. We definitely appreciate that. And if you would like to be a presenter on a future call, sign up for that as well. So thank you, everyone. And see you next month. Take care.